One of the internet's most famous mysteries. In 2006, a man appeared in Ukraine claiming he just accidentally time traveled from 1958. Today, we are breaking down the wild truth behind the Sergei Ponomarenko story while dropping into some high-stakes Zero Build gameplay. Can we survive the lobby and solve history's weirdest urban legend? Let's find out. Imagine walking down the street in your hometown, snapping a quick photo and instantly blinking 50 years into the future. It sounds like the plot of a Hollywood sci-fi movie. But in 2006, authorities in Ukraine were forced to ask themselves a terrifying question. Did this actually just happen? This is the bizarre, chilling story of Sergei Ponomarenko, the man who claimed he accidentally walked straight out of the year 1958 and left behind evidence that still baffles the internet today. Our story begins on April 23, 2006, in the bustling city of Kyiv. Police officers noticed a young man wandering around a busy intersection, looking completely terrified and profoundly confused. He was wearing a vintage wool suit, a fedora, and polished leather shoes, looking like he had just stepped off a 1950s movie set. In his hands, he tightly clutched an old-fashioned camera. When officers approached him and asked for identification, he handed over a document that made them freeze. It was a pristine red identity card from the old Soviet Union. The name on the card read, Sergei Ponomarenko, the birth year listed, 1932. According to that official document, the man standing before them should have been 74 years old, but the man they were looking at was barely 25. Assuming they were dealing with a psychiatric patient or a highly dedicated prankster, police brought Sergei to a clinic to be evaluated by a psychiatrist, Dr. Pablo Kutrikov. When the doctor turned on his audio recorder, Sergei's story only got stranger. He claimed that just moments ago, it was Wednesday, April 24th, 1958. He was walking down the street with his fiancée Valentina when he spotted a strange metallic object in the sky that looked like a giant floating bell. Sergei raised his camera, snapped a picture of the UFO, and in a flash of light, found himself surrounded by giant modern skyscrapers, strange cars, and people holding tiny glowing rectangles. To test him, Dr. Kutrikov handed Sergei a modern cell phone. Sergei stared at it with genuine fear, completely unable to comprehend what it was. But then came the twist that turned a crazy story into an absolute mystery. Police handed Sergei's vintage camera over to a photography expert named Vadim Posner. The camera was a rare German Royale from the 1950s, and it was in mint condition. Even weirder, the film inside was a specific brand that had stopped being manufactured decades ago. Legally, film that old should have disintegrated into dust, but when Posner developed it, the photos came out perfectly clear. The first few photos showed Kyiv exactly as it looked in the 1950s. No modern billboards, no modern cars. The next photo showed Sergei and his fiancée Valentina, smiling and wearing the exact clothes he was arrested in. But it was the very last photo on the roll that sent chills down the expert's spine. It was a clear, undeniable picture of a massive bell-shaped object hovering in the clouds above the city. Before authorities could figure out what to do next, the story took a terrifying turn. Sergei was placed in a secure, locked hospital room with heavy steel bars on the windows. Security cameras watched the hallway 24/7. But the next morning, when an orderly opened the door, Sergei was gone. His vintage clothes and camera were still there, but he had completely vanished. He never appeared on any of the security footage leaving the room. He had simply blinked out of existence. Desperate for answers, investigators tracked down Valentina, the fiancée from the 1950s photos. They found her in Kyiv, now an elderly woman in her 70s. When they showed her the pictures, she wept, confirming that Sergei had gone for a walk in 1958 and never came back. But she had one final piece of evidence. She pulled out a photo she received in the mail years later, in 1970. It was Sergei, looking slightly older, standing in front of a mind-bending futuristic city filled with flying vehicles. On the back, a handwritten note read, "I am fine, Valentina. I have seen the future, 2050. So, is this definitive proof of time travel? Well, here's the real plot twist. Internet sleuths eventually tracked down the truth. This entire story was actually a brilliant mockumentary episode of a Ukrainian sci-fi TV show called Aliens that aired back in 2006. The show used actors, staged photos, and clever editing to explore paranormal theories. When clips of the show were uploaded to TikTok and YouTube years later, the fictional disclaimers were cut out, and the internet turned it into a viral urban legend. Even the 2050 photo was debunked. The futuristic background actually used cloned images of the Empire State Building photoshopped into Kyiv. It might not be real time travel, but it is definitely one of the greatest internet hoaxes of all time. What do you guys think? Did this story fool you at first? Let me know in the comments below. Smash that like button and subscribe for more mysteries uncovered. See you next time.